right. Well, welcome everyone to the Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society demo by our fabulous returning artist, David Lobenberg. He's been with us a few times, and I've taken his workshop, and I'll tell you, I loved it. And if you haven't done it, we still have a couple of spots open for this one. And he is teaching us coast to coast sunsets. And if you saw the pictures on the website, they are awesome. And, you know, definitely in his California vibe style. If you see his screen right now, you can see he's got one up, and I'm sure he's going to show more. So just to introduce David, definitely figurative landscape watercolor, and a lot of people know him for his portraits, but like I said, his landscapes, when I saw them, and his animals are just as fabulous. So I was not aware of the landscapes, and I went back and looked at a number of them. They're just gorgeous. So we do have some spots open for this workshop, so I encourage you to sign up. He's done a lot of commissions too, and I was talking about this during his critique for us, that, you know, a lot of sports figures David has painted, and I was really happy that he had done a lot of the A's, couple of the A's guys, and that, I know that's a while ago, but still it was very awesome. Master's degree in fine arts from UCLA, and he taught at Sacramento City College, but is no longer doing that, correct?
Correct, I'm retired.
Yeah, he's retired, but work's been reproduced in American Artists, Southwest Artists. He said he's got an upcoming article here in Plein Air magazine. Do you know what month that is, David?
Yeah, it's going to be, I believe it's the October-November issue, which is just about ready to come out. And it's a little essay on drawing.
Awesome. Yeah. So, see, I use awesome all the time. Sorry.
You do? Well, you know, we pick up those words. I use them too, so you're excused.
Exactly. So welcome to David. We're glad he's back. He also has a workshop with us coming up next year where he's going to do people and their pets, which I saw some of those paintings, and those are really funny too. So maybe you'll show a couple of those just for that reason. But David's got a lot going on. So take it away, David. Thank you for being here with us.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me. I love working for, let's see, SCVWS.
Yep.
Acronyms always bother me. Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society. And so next year when I do the people and pet, I'm going to be there, right?
Yes, that's going to be, it's one of our hopefully new experiments, in person and online. So
we'll stay positive that that's going to work. And during the lunch breaks, when that workshop comes around, we can all go across the street and have lunch at the Egyptian Museum.
Yes, which is a fabulous place too. So
love that place. Okay, so this is what I'm going to paint today. Another sunset ocean landscape. I'm going to change it a little. I don't like the wave going this way. So I'll make some changes, and the rocks are a little black, so I'm going to give some highlights to that. I'm going to use primarily, I'll use a flat brush. Let me take this out of the way and get it up where I can see it. I'm going to use a flat brush just primarily to wet this top third, because this is where the sky is going to be. I may use a small flat brush to pull out highlights. We'll see. I don't think I need the toothbrush for this one. I'm going to put this over here. And then I'm going to do most of my painting with these round Isabey. They're called oval brushes. I don't know why they don't look like an oval to me. The other name that people use, and I like it better, is their cat's tongues. Not to be confused with lizard licks. Those are those long, thin ones. No, these are cat's tongues. Not that cat's tongues come to a point, but anyway, it's a better name than oval. I don't know. I just really like these just as well. I can paint with these just as well as I can paint with rounds, because you got the big area to push down on to get the, for your larger washes. And then you got the nice, they come to nice tips. So you got those for details. So those are my brushes. I like to use Sennelier. It's a French brand. And I'm going to primarily use the primaries. I've got 2 reds. I've got 1 yellow and 2 blues. So the yellow is Cad Yellow Light. The 2 reds are Opera and Alizarin Red, or whatever comes close. Because there are other reds in the Sennelier brand, obviously. So, if I don't have alizarin, I just use any other cool red. And then my 2 blues are phthalo blue. I love phthalo blue, and I can mix lots of greens with those. And cobalt blue, which is a nice cool blue. And then I do throw in a few ones that I can't live without and that are hard to mix with the primaries, like this turquoise blue. So I've got that. You got that in this well right here. So I got more wells here, but they're all empty. They're kind of dirty and grungy looking, but there's no paint. And there's more than 5 paints in here, but I don't use very many of them. They're just kind of been left over. I use basically the primaries I talked about. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got my paper taped off so I can have when I'm done, I can pull it off and hopefully have a nice border. This is not a real tacky tape, but it seems to keep out the water. I'll periodically press down on it with my fingernail. And then I've got this tape. It looks like a tape measure. It was given to me by a superior judge who took one of my workshops a while back. She gifted it to me. And what am I going to tell her? I don't want it? Yeah, okay, fine. That's 2 months in the slammer. So I had to accept it. So I'm using that, and I got that down there so I can get the horizon on my ocean. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my puddles at the ready. You got to have your puddles at the ready. So now I do have a beautiful orange here.
Hey, David, this is Susan. We have somebody asking why professional artists use a fugitive color such as opera when there could be a substitute. Any comments?
Opera has its own character, so I really like it, and I've been using it for years. And as I understand it, opera has become, they formulated, some of the manufacturers have formulated it where it's less fugitive. And then if I'm to frame something, I don't expect anybody to have, a direct light hitting. And I've never had any problem. I got some old paintings that have been up on the wall, and I don't see any fading whatsoever. And I figure, hey, if it's going to last maybe 60, 80 years, that's good enough for me. Also, I'm being a little flippant about that, but that's how I believe. And also, when I'm done with my paintings, I spray them with a Lascaux, that's a French brand, Lascaux, Lascaux varnish. And I use flat varnish. I can spray 3 coats on a watercolor painting and you don't know that anything is on it. It looks like there's nothing on it. Yet the painting.
Do you do that on all of them? This is Susan.
Well, unless I get lazy and I know I'm not selling anything, and
Okay.
I throw it in a flat file. But yeah, anything that I sell has got the Lascaux over it. And the cool thing about the Lascaux, and it's a top brand, Golden also makes a spray varnish, but Lascaux is the Mercedes of spray varnishes. And it has a UV protectant built into it. So that's pretty cool. And the coolest thing of all is you could frame your painting, you could float your painting. You don't need any glass. I hate glass. It really interferes with looking at a watercolor. And it's going to be just as protected and will less go, if not more, than just regular glass. And I certainly don't like UV protectant glass because that affects the color. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking with it. But that's a good question.
Well, thank
But
you.
I think opera is a little, they formulated it where it's not quite so fugitive, but I've never had a problem. So anyway, but you know what? I think I'm going to use that orange. I don't want to waste time. Well, not that it's here. Let me show you. I'll show you how it mixes. Let's see if I can match it. But this is a pretty bright orange here. So here's my opera. I want to get a lot on. There. Clean my cat's tongue. Let's go for the cad yellow. Look how bright that is. Oh, what the heck, I'll use this. Now I'm adding more yellow and getting more yellow, but I'll fix that. And put more opera in it. Oh boy, that is nice. Also, I want several different orange hues. So I'm going to get just plain old opera here. And we'll see if I have enough. I'm going to paint wet on wet for the sky, so I hate running out midway. So we'll see how this works. And then let's add a little more yellow, but not too much. A little bit more. There, so see, that's a little bit darker. I want those two different shades. And just for extra insurance, I'm going to go right to this already mixed orange. See, that's even more saturated. So we got some good stuff happening here. Okay, now I've got to wet my paper. Now I've got the sun there. Oh, and this is the fun part. I'm using chalk markers, orange, yellow, pink or red, yellow, and white chalk markers. And you'll see later how I use those.
David, Jill has a question, or she has her hand up. Do you want people
Yes.
asking questions, or would you rather wait?
No, normally I don't mind questions being asked, but how about we wait until I get the wet on wet sunset done?
Perfect.
Guys,
Okay.
You guys know what wet on wet is like. You know, it's pretty intimidating. So you don't want to be oh, what's the word? You just don't want to intimidate me right now. I got to relax. I got to concentrate. Is my head in the picture? No, not yet. Okay, good. I don't want to get my head in the picture. You don't want to see my head. You just want to see the painting. There. So I just went around the sun. I hate using Triscuit or masking liquid. I don't like it. So because I'm not using masking, I'll be taking, in some places around the wave, I'll be taking paint off after it's dried, and I'll be using my markers. So, you know, all these little splatters, I don't have to, you know, I'm not going to use any masking tape. You know what? And we also need some yellow. Okay. And you know, I can't copy my reference photograph. What I'm doing is I'm looking at it and I just want to get the general idea. So let's add some yellow. Oh, and we want to get some yellow around the sun, like that. And later on, I'll use the chalk marker to give that sun a wee bit of glow. Okay, now we can come in, segue. Now we go to orange. And you got to be bold and use some big sweeping strokes. And don't forget, watercolor paint dries lighter. And then I just have a wet brush. I'll put a little bit of orange on it. And I just want to make sure all this blends nicely. Go right across. Just some sweeping, whoops, whoop. Hey, you know what? That's why I had this on it at one time. Not that those light blobs, they're going to be totally obliterated when I start painting the ocean and rocks. I got to be careful. I've got a fan going on right now. Still warm. We still have warm weather in Sacramento. Okay, I think that will be it. I don't want to diddle with it too much. You know what? You all know what that's like. You start playing around and you start getting too fussy, and the painting goes to hell in the handbasket. I'm seeing a little, I'm just taking a little paint off right here. It's puddling. So when it's puddling, I just very carefully, I can pull some of that off with a dry brush. Okay. Let's just take a wet brush and soften this a little. That's good enough. Okay. Can I take off that tape? I wonder. Oh, I know. By the way, I don't like using a hairdryer. I like the paint to settle on its own accord. And I also don't like using a hairdryer because it makes me paint too fast and I get tired too fast and I can't judge the painting because when you work real hard, you lose that detachment. So usually what I would do if I wasn't demonstrating right now, I would just leave and I would maybe get on YouTube and watch something or go downstairs and do the dishes. So I don't use a hairdryer. But this is a great time now if anybody has any questions. I'm ready.
David, hi. What size is the paper you're painting on right now?
Oh,
Please
good. That's a good
when
question.
you have a comment or question, could you please tell us your name?
Yes, this is Valerie Bacco and Campbell.
Oh, hi,
Okay.
Valerie.
Hi, I took your workshop last time. It was wonderful.
Oh, good. I forget, what subject was that?
Well, it was the woman with the big hair and we learned.
Yeah.
It was, I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the workshop, but yeah, that was very good.
Cool.
I even have this, it's not going to go in the Louvre or anything, but I even have this little guy left. I don't
Oh,
know if you
yeah,
recognize
yeah.
it.
Spiky
And we
boy.
learned how to, de-stencil, take off pigment.
Stencil embellishment, yes.
Yeah, that was wonderful. And the chalk markers and so forth.
And you've already seen me use, yeah, so you're going to see me use it again. Cool.
Great. Okay.
I only paint, and I've been painting for years on Fabriano, 140-pound cold press. Fabriano's been around for a while, ever since the late Renaissance, making papers. And the paper seems to be a little more relaxed. It doesn't seem to buckle as much. And when it dries, it doesn't have that as much of a buckle at all. And I like their Artistico, Fabriano Artistico. It's nice, bright white, although I know there are other papers that make bright white. And, you know, all professional grades are great, but I like Fabriano. And what else did I want to say about that? Oh, yeah, their sizing. There's no chemicals in their sizing. They use natural sizings. Don't ask me what it is. I don't know. All I know is they use natural sizing for the paper. So Fabriano Artistico. Let me see if I can take off the tape.
Jill, did you have a question?
You're muted, Jill.
No, I don't have a question.
Oh, because your hand is up. Is that on purpose?
My hand?
Oh, I mean, no, on the screen.
Oh, no. Okay. That was, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mistake.
Okay, yeah, look at that. You know what, though? This is still wet. Let me take advantage of this situation and pull off some paint. And then I've got my chalk markers, so I'll come back in. And we do want a little bit of the sky showing through the water, so no big deal. There. That ought to do it. And don't forget, it's going to even dry lighter. Okay, now see how I'm starting to diddle? You don't want to do that. I have found through many years of painting that you can't get myopic on one section of your painting, because by the time you're done, nobody's even going to concentrate on that section. They're going to see your painting as a whole. So be careful with diddling. Okay, so what do I want to do next? I want to do the ocean. And I'm going to do that wet on dry. Wait, should I do the ocean? This is still a little wet. No, I can't do that. Any more questions? Come on, give me another question so I can let the horizon dry a little bit more. Anything.
Is it an 1/8 sheet or a 1/4 sheet?
Oh, I forgot to tell you that. No, this is a half sheet. And I'm not a big proponent, at least for myself. I guess this is a personal deal. I rarely paint on full sheets anymore. I know when a full sheet painting comes, I mean, you know, the size is just, you know, it can be real exciting. On the other hand, you know what? A really well painted piece of artwork, you can go down to a 1/4 sheet and it's going to look pretty good. In fact, it's going to look damn good. And then you put like a 3-inch mat around it and frame it. Looks great. So I don't do elephant size anymore. I have painted. I did a watercolor years ago for a retirement community for their clubhouse. Oh, Sun City in Sacramento. And I had to buy a roll. So I knew that roll was at least 4 feet. And I think I went out at about 5 feet or 6 feet. And it was an interior scene, a bar room scene, a historic bar room scene from the Gold Rush. So, and it is impressive, but I normally work it just on half sheets, maybe so every once in a while full sheet, and a lot on 1/4 sheets. Oh, that's looking good. I think I can go in there now.
So this is Jane. I can't figure out where to put the hand up. Quick question.
Yes.
When you're out on plein air, the paints you use don't really travel well in a closed palette. So what watercolor brands do you like to use with the vibrancy that you prefer when you're doing
Yeah,
plein air?
well, any professional grade. And the last time I was out was last year. It made me very nervous, but my wife and I traveled to Oregon, and we had about 20 people in this plein air workshop. We had our masks on, but I was still nervous, but I did it, and I love going to Oregon. And I had one of those little metal pallets that you can open up, and then it's got the little hole in it, so you can stick your thumb in there and hold it, and then it's got the little wells, maybe about 6 wells on either side, and then an area for mixing. And I took tube watercolors. I also know Sennelier makes a little a metal watercolor box with a ring on the bottom, so you can hold it like a ring. It's like a big ring with a big box, with this box. It's about maybe, I don't know, 3 by 5 inches. And it's got the cake watercolor. And normally I don't like cake watercolor, except Sennelier manages to make one that really you can get a lot of pigment on your brush. You don't have to move your brush back and forth to loosen it up. And then recently I've been working with a product from India called Viviva, Viviva. And you get this tiny little pad with these different squares, and they're about maybe 1.5 inches square, and they've applied pigment on top. So you just have to run your brush over that, a wet brush over that a little bit, and you get these fantastic bright colors. And now I found this exciting. They've made a pan set. You know how you can get those pan sets with the dried blocks of color in them, and they're usually made out of plastic or metal. Now this doesn't have a mixing area, but it's got the little blocks, and they're set within a pan made out of natural cork. So that when you're done with the whole thing, you could literally use that as mulch or just throw it in recycling. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And I've added so much information. Jane, did I adequately answer your question?
Yes, you did. I didn't know if you were just so in love with the Sennelier, and they're honey based, and I know they don't, you can't close up a wet palette very well they have to really,
No, you can't.
but they do, you're right. They
although-
just came out with pre-filled pans now that are hard.
Yeah,
to-
yeah, you can get some pretty good pan colors, and
Yeah.
they loosen up really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I just dipped a chalk marker into alizarin red. I'm cleaning that. Okay. I want to make sure, how much time have I got? Vicky?
You,
Or Susan.
this Susan, yeah, you have till 4.
Oh, so I got plenty of time, so I'm in no rush. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yep.
I see I've got a little, I don't know what happened here. Not that it's a big deal. I'm just gonna loosen that up a little. Ooh, better watch out. Ooh. Just loosen that up a little and blot it. I want some nice strong white in that sun. That's good enough. Okay, let's do the ocean. I'm going to go wet on dry. I just want a very light reflection of the sun. To sweep it across like that. I'm not going to go through the wave. I'll put a little, no, I'm not going to go through the wave. And then on this side. And then I'm twisting it so I can get a broader area. And that's it. And then I'm going to take just a little bit of cobalt blue. Because I see some blue. Actually, you know what? I see some blue. I see almost a little bit of violet in there. There we go. Okay. And I can go right over the rock because those rocks are going to be darker later. There. Okay. A little bit more of the orange and yellow here. You go right over the rocks, they're going to be dark. You know, something's going to be dark, don't paint around them. And especially when what you're painting around them is a light color anyway, because when you get your dark color of the rocks on top of that, you're just going to totally overwhelm. I see a lot of people painting around things when they don't have to. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue right down here. Got a little dry brush action happening here. That's probably going to be good. You know, you got to think of your painting as a piece of artwork and not, you're not trying to copy anything. You're not trying to be photographically realistic at all. And I know a lot of painters that paint, they're a lot less realistic than I am. We all paint differently. Okay, now let's get some, I got some nice strong blue down by the rocks here. So I'm going to put that there and then take a wet brush. I don't want to get too detailed and dark yet. So I'm just going to pull some of that up there and add a little more of the sunset color before that dries. Of course, I've got to go in there so it all mixes together.
David, this is Susan. One of the people, someone is asking if you could speak to using the honey-based paints versus non-honey-based paints. How
Oh.
how are they different?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Sennelier is honey-based or not. I think they're different. I think honey-based paints are a little more liftable, and I do like that quality. Like if I'm doing a portrait and I want to get a little highlight in the hair, and even after the paint's totally dry, I can go in and pull off. Although, you know, if you're patient, you can do it, I think, with any professional grade paint. Now, that is one thing I found with these Viva colors. Damn, I mean, each color is beautiful and so bright, but they're not very liftable. But when I go out and sketch plein air, I use my ink and wash technique. So I'll use a pencil to do my drawing, and then I'll go over those lines with a non-water soluble black pen, and then I'll just add really loosey-goosey big washes, and it all holds together because your ink drawing holds it all together. So then you can just apply washes, loose washes. So did that answer your question? I think honey-based basically is more liftable. And
Okay.
that can come in handy when I'm indoors doing my portraits.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do. We have a little dark blue right down here. I could even go over the rock. It's not going to affect anything. Those rocks are going to be dark. And then I want a little bit of sunset color in there. I'm just going to come in and add a little yellow and a little bit of red. And, you know, it's not like the photograph. I'm not copying it. I learned a long time ago, you don't have to copy photographs. And let's get a little bit of the sunset, warm sunset in there. Like that. And as I come down, just very lightly, some of the, I'm going to add while it's still wet, add some of those sunset colors. I see people a lot, they'll paint and they let things dry too quickly. You know, if you lay down a wash, have your puddles ready so that you're ready to go back in and add more colors and just let them blend like I'm doing here. I can go right into the rocks. I am going to have a splash here as well. Okay, so what you can see that I'm doing, a little bit of yellow here. I'm covering this whole ocean. I want some here. And how about a little cobalt here? Like that. Have I done it? I think I have. Okay. So I've already covered, I'm building up my color foundation. I've already covered at least, I think, what, maybe 60% of the paper. So that's done. Now, I'm going to let that dry back a little. You know what? I want a little bit more of the orange. And I don't think I'm going to get any blossoms. A little bit of the orange in there. A little bit there. I'll run a little bit across here. There. That makes me happier. And some blue. All right. This looks easy. And to a certain extent, it is easy because I've painted enough sunset watercolors now. And the more you paint something, the better you get, the more familiar you get with the process and with capturing the impression. But with that said, it's still intense. So again, that's why I don't like to use a hair dryer. I just want to, it's like, whew, oh man, 60% done and it's looking good. I'm happy. I got to take a rest. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Are there any more questions? If not, after I catch my breath, I think I'll work on, what do I want to work on? I think I'll work on the rocks. Yeah. So, I hate to waste paint. And I have gotten to the point where I don't clean my palette so it's pristine clean. I'll leave little areas of color, but I think I'm keeping just to this mixing area. It's particularly normally here. Let me get this out of the way. Put this down here. Put my brushes up here. This is my full palette. And it's one that folds. This has been all over the country when I teach workshops. Usually what I do is after the workshop, I'll go in and I'll wick out water in the wells, and then I'll spread some saran wrap across it and I close it and I'm fine. It's amazing all the stuff that goes through security. Sometimes you can't even bring a bottle of water through security, but I bring all sorts of crazy implements, like I've got these boiler oilers. I even pack up, stuff like this. Let me put myself on speaker so I can see what I'm showing you better. Yeah, this. And even this is like a syringe. And I even have ones that have needles. They go right through security. Amazing. Of course, I haven't traveled in more than a year now, so I don't know. Maybe it's things have changed. Okay.
So David, this is Vicky. Linda's asking, how is your palette and colors different for portraits?
Oh, the same colors. So
Okay.
what I've done, you think about it. Think about the hundreds of different colors you can mix with your primaries. I've even seen artists use less, but if you got a red, a yellow, and blue, you can get away with mixing lots of colors. But see, I have a warm red and a cool red, and I have a phthalo blue and a cool cobalt blue. And then I add a few extra colors that are harder to mix, but I can mix literally hundreds and hundreds of colors. And I just find it fascinating. I really feel like an alchemist who knows how to make gold out of base materials, except I can make all these colors from only 5 primaries. And it certainly makes life simpler. I can concentrate on other things rather than making decisions. Well, should I use this color? Should I use that color? And then guess what? I'm not copying the photograph. Or if I'm outdoors, plein air, I'm not trying to copy nature exactly. I don't have to. So my 5 colors, that's enough. It
Okay,
just makes life easier. And
Mary,
I think it
Oh, go
helps
ahead.
make your painting more creative because you're not trying to copy. Okay, I interrupted somebody.
that's okay. This is Vicky again.
Yes.
Marion's asking, what's the major difference if the painting is left to dry instead of dried with a hair dryer? Does it affect the finished painting?
I contend that it does, because you think about it, you know, the colors are mixing and mingling, and they're slowly spreading out, almost imperceptible. In the beginning, you can see it spread out, but then after that, it's a little more subtle. Well, if I dry it, I'm not letting those pigments spread out and mix. I think it's going to be a little bit more harder edged. It's subtle, but I like not using the hair dryer. You know, unless it's a small area, and usually I have a limited time to demo, then I will use a hair dryer. And then don't forget, the other thing is, you know, even this is nice and loose, but it's intense. I'm concentrating real hard. And I just like to walk away and rest my eyes. And I found that with everything. You know, I'm producing these video lessons for my new drawing class. You know what? I put together a video lesson, then I walk away. I come back later. I see new things that I never saw before because I was in the heat of creation. Let yourself cool off. It's amazing what you'll see. And it's amazing what new ideas may come forth. So no hair drying. And I know that's a big deal. I know hair dryers have, and I've spent years using hair dryers. Okay, now I need to mix some colors for the rocks. So we know they're going to be in the brown range. And all I've got is yellows, 2 reds, and 2 blues. But we know that red, yellow, and blue will make mud. So that's what I'm going to count on. My ability to make mud, i.e. browns. Oops. So let me get this flat brush out of the way. I don't need that anymore. So let's see what I can do. I'm going to take a cool red. I don't know if this is exactly a alizarin red, but it's close enough. It's a cool red, which means it's got blue in it. On the color spectrum, it's got blue in it. That's the only way it can be a cool red. Okay. But I will remember this well. Yeah, I can get real lazy about I always know that I've got a cad yellow light. I always know that I got a phthalo blue. I always know that I got a cobalt blue and a turquoise blue, but sometimes I'll find other colors that are cool reds, and I don't even make a note of it. And I know there are artists there that will say, yeah, but wait, you know, you mix this color and this color and you get a cool color. Don't you want to know how to mix it again? You know, I am so damn, it's probably a combination of me not being the most organized person in the world. And it's probably a combination of, I don't like to repeat things too much. I do like to do painting several times to understand the subject and understand how to paint it. But I just love the fact that each time I do a painting is slightly different. So if I'm going to get a slightly different color with a cool blue, and I don't know the exact brand or name of the blue, that's fine. And yeah, I'll never be able to reproduce it again once I'm out of that and I put in another cool blue, but that's okay. So now I need a little yellow. Okay, now that's a nice dingy orange. Now, but meanwhile, for this painting, I'm going to want to remember what I'm doing. In fact, I'm going to make sure, because it's dry, I want to keep it nice and loose. Okay, now the question is, what blue? Do I want to add a phthalo blue or cobalt blue? I'm going to try a cobalt blue. Okay, now I need to add a little more red. And this takes a while, a little bit of yellow. Okay, that's all too light. Let's throw in a little bit of phthalo. That's a lot. This usually takes me a while. You're going to get a great green with that yellow and blue. And then we go back to this. There, now we're getting a little bit better. A little more red. See, we need a lot more red. And maybe just a little bit of yellow.
Your head's,
Yes.
I was gonna say your head is in the,
My head gets in the way. Yes. Thank you for, oh,
it's a nice head.
I guess. Well, thank you for saying that, but it certainly impedes the view. Add a yellow. I think this might be good enough. Let's just start on one and see what it looks like. Yeah, look at that. Of course, I know the color's not exactly what you're seeing on the computer. And let's put some over here. So these are the vertical sections of the rock that are not getting the sunlight. But I do like to vary the color just a little bit. So I'm going to go in there, and this is still wet. Look at this. I'm going to go in there with, let's go for this red, this cool red. And then let's throw in a little bit of yellow. Just to vary, and the brown's getting a little lighter, which is okay. And also I may end up, I want to get a little lighter there. So there's a dirty brown. And then I want to get really dark now down here. And I'll need a little bit of red. Okay. By the way, I paint. Yeah, see, I'm not sitting down. That's why my head gets in the way. You know, if I was sitting down, you'd see my arm all the time. But I stand up and I like to be right over my painting. Now, as I get longer in the tooth, there may come a time where I'm going to have to sit down. So I do have a nice drafting chair that raises really high up into the air. So that's, I know that's going to help. Actually, I am long in the tooth. But as I get longer in the tooth, I might have to sit down.
Okay, I'm going to throw a few questions out if you're okay with
Yeah,
that.
you know, go right ahead.
Okay, Jane's asking if we can periodically see the reference photo.
Oh, yes, yes. Good
Marion-
question.
Okay, and Marion asked, how often do you paint the same painting and do you paint in series?
You know what? That's two good questions in a row. So I will show, I will take a break and show and lay down the reference photograph.
When
And
you're
I am
ready.
a firm believer in not doing a painting of a subject once. Why would you do that? What you think? Do you think that you're going to pull off a great painting once? I doubt it. So why not do it several more times? Because each time you're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn, oh, I could mix this color and that color. I could use this brush. Oh, when it's dry, I can pull off paint to get highlights. There are so many things that you can learn, and you're familiarizing yourself more and more with the subject. So I can, it's like, I'm going to try a little yellow now. It's like rehearsing for a play. You don't go on stage and just deliver your lines in front of an audience without rehearsing. So what does the rehearsing do? Well, you remember your lines, and you remember them so well, they become so ingrained in your head that to prevent yourself from being bored after the 150th time you've been before an audience, you learn how to deliver them in various different subtle ways. That makes it so interesting. And it's the same with an artist. So yeah, who did multiple subjects of haystacks? That was what's his name? Monet or Manet? Monet. Did I answer all the questions?
You did. And then there's one that was from back when you were showing your little tools. Someone asked, what do you use that syringe for?
Oh, I don't use it that often. And I wish I had an example readily at hand. When I do, a long time ago, when I was doing my California Vibe paintings, when the painting was dry, that syringe shoots out a fine line of water at high pressure. So you get real close to your painting and you move it around like this. And then you take paper towels and pat off all the water that's squirted everywhere. But where that high pressure line of water is hit, it takes off the paint. And you got this little graffiti effect that's left behind. And I'm a firm believer in that. I'm not going to move my camera, but I'm going to take a painting off the wall and show you real quick. And this leaves me some more time for that, for drawing. I love a graffiti effect. See on the left, all those little squiggles that I did with my paintbrush.
Yes.
Yeah. So the syringe, I did it on the dark areas and it pulled off white. It left a white line, graffiti line. And then subsequent to that, and Vicky took the workshop, I now use stencils to create lines in certain areas.
And
And I
that
have a
is,
course on that.
that's fun.
And that is fun. And I have a course on that on my California Vibe School of Watercolor. If you go to Lobenberg Art, Lobenberg, lobenbergart.com, you can see on the home page, I talk a little bit about that. And then you go to my workshop page and you can see the courses that I teach. And then, of course, I do them on Zoom, and I did one for Santa Clara Valley Watercolor Society. Oh, this is a little purple. How about if I get some purple? And I'm not into natural colors. I'm just not into natural colors. If you can follow your dark and middle and light values, you don't have to use natural colors. You can be very expressive. Now I'm going back to that brown. And then I think I'm going to take a wet brush, because you don't want anything too flat. I'm just going to go in there and pull some of that down to vary the value. It's going to make the rocks look a little more natural. Okay. And then we've got a dark drop off on the rocks here. Hey, let's even put in a little phthalo blue. Let's be more expressive. In fact, let's mix a little more on the paper. That's a little more fun, isn't it? Look, I got blue, phthalo blue. What did I add? Oh, I add the alizarin, and now I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow. Just let all this mix up together, and there's a little highlight right there. Let's get in a little bit of that. Come on. Got a little highlight there. And see, I've got a little tabletop that's pointing to the sky that goes here, and it comes out, oops, to the foreground. And then there's one here. Get that a little darker. Okay. I don't want these highlight. I don't want them pure white. I'm going to take a wet brush and soften some of this. And here. There. And I need a little bit more. I think I need a little, I've got some red here. I want a little bit more here. Okay. Oh, let me show you. And I'm making this up because you're going to be surprised with what the rocks look like. There are the rocks. Pretty dirty, dingy rocks. I'm making it up. Now, if you were to sign up for my workshop where I'm doing this scene, and where we'll be doing this scene also on a half sheet, it's going to be bigger. Before the workshop, you're going to be sent the outline drawings that you will literally trace on 140-pound cold press paper. And then you'll follow me step by step. Vicky's done this, and so is Susan with my portrait workshops. So you're mostly into painting technique and mixing colors and using expressive colors a lot. But right now with this, I'm just making this up. So if this were to become a workshop, I would follow the same system, and all these highlights that I've made up, they would be in outline form. And you would get that. I don't rely on a lot of for my workshop students to do a lot of the drawing. It takes up way too much time. And the whole point of my workshop is the painting part, not the drawing part. Okay. I also don't like to sit down, because standing up, I'm backing out right now. I'm backing away from the painting to analyze it. You're not going to see the top of my head. Thank goodness. Now there's a drop off on the rocks right here. And it connects right here. I picked up a little of the there's some drop off right here. So this all connects. Let's take a little bit of phthalo blue and mix that in. And a little bit of my alizarin red. And then we hit the top of the rock right here. There's definitely a change in the plane angle. I think this has got to get a little darker too. I'm going to these same three colors, yellow. I'm not using the cobalt, but yellow, phthalo, and alizarin red. There. There's got to be a little, push this back a little bit more. And again, I'm keeping this going, but if this were not a demo, I would stop, let my eyes rest, and come back to it. But this is a demo, and I have done this painting before, so that's okay. I'll just keep going. Okay. Now let's see what's happening up here. We have a wave. We have the top of the rock. I want to soften that a little. And you know what? We can put in just a little bit of dirty orange, because it is getting the light of the sunset in these areas, just a little bit. And then I want here's a good question for Susan and Vicky. Do we have a break
Today?
like a Zoom workshop, or
Oh, during the workshop?
no, do we have a break during this demo?
Oh, absolutely. Whenever you'd like one.
I thought so, but I thought I better ask.
We're not slave drivers.
Jeez, give me a break. Okay, now I've got some splashes coming up. So I think what I need is, I don't need a bigger boat as in Jaws. I need a smaller brush. as in David doing a painting. That was a great line. I think we need a bigger boat.
Uh,
Well, yeah, when the shark is after you, I would say that works really well.
It works really well, a bigger boat. Okay, so now I'm going to just kind of feather and bite into this wave that's splashing. A little bit of yellow. Put a little phthalo on my brush. And I'm really going to rely on my chalk marker to do the splattering. You can kind of see the water starting to splatter. Let's make it real dark right here. The rock hits the water there. I'm still on a roll, so let me do a little bit more here before I take a break. Do this rock. Water's kind of smooth here where it hits the rock. Then we get some wavelets. Comes down, goes smooth again. I'm looking at the photograph, and I'll put the photograph down again so you can see what I'm looking at as I'm painting. I think that's a slightly harder line there. Okay. It's kind of like putting together a puzzle. And the more pieces that you put down, the easier to see the rocks emerge. Oh, and there's a real dark rock right here that goes into the water. There. I'm going to get this a little bit darker, bring it out a little bit more. Yellow's a strong color. That really, I got to push that back with some more of my red. So then we have, oh, and I'll put in a little phthalo because I really want it dark now. Right here. There. Bit more phthalo. And as I come up on that rock, I want to get it just a little bit lighter. I'm almost done. Okay, I'm going to take a break. I'll stop right there.
All right.
Any questions? Oh, let me show. Which there's nothing, the rocks aren't comparing, but you can see this wave right here. That's what I was feathering. So I've got this and this to contend with, and maybe a little splattering here. We'll see how that goes. This particular painting I decided not to do for the workshop we've got next week, because it's kind of a made up thing and I think it's difficult. Whereas this is going to be fun because we're going to be painting all of these rocks dark. We're not going to have to worry about, well, where's the light hitting? You'll be following me after it's all dry. We'll be taking a flat brush, different sizes, maybe a small and a medium like this, and we're going to scrub out those highlights. So the only thing that we have to be careful with this, and you'll follow me, is leaving little puddles of water. But I've got those marked up on the tracing, so that's not going to be too difficult. And then this one is also pretty straightforward. This is all wet on wet. We lay down yellows and reds, and then we're going to lay down the lighter blues on top, still wet on wet. And this is going to be interesting because then we're going to let it go bone dry. Then we're going to take a flat brush and put water on top. But guess what? By this time, the pigment has attached itself to the fibers of the paper. So very lightly, you can wet this again and it will not affect your previous washes. But then we're going to mix up a dark purplish color and we're going to lay down these clouds real quickly on top. So you're going to get these nice soft clouds. And with the water, we're going to do a lot of just wet on dry, lay down a light blue. And then we're going to wet it again. And very quickly add these little marks for wavelets. And then the colors here, you know, you're going to leave areas of light color between the darker wavelets. We're going to let this all dry and we're going to lay down that sunset color using the chalk markers. And then the wharf and the people is just basically wet on dry, just laying down all the little stanchions and the people. It's pretty straightforward. So it slowly all comes together.
Okay, so how long would you like for a break, David?
Yeah, how long have I been at this for 2 hours?
An hour and a half. About an hour and a half.
Oh, okay. Let's just take a 5-minute Let's crank up. I'll tell you what, let's crank up at 5 after 3.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. A little sip of water.
And I wanted to encourage everyone to sign up for this workshop. It's going to be a lot of fun. And it starts on Monday, September 20th through the 22nd. I believe it starts at 9 a.m. Is that right, Susan? 9 a.m.?
Sorry, not paying attention. What?
Oh, the workshop starts at 9 a.m. on the 20th, right? I know it's the
9
20th.
9 a.m. or 9:30, whatever we
Yeah,
want.
it's 9. I just looked. Now it's 9 to 3. 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Okay, then it's 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
When do they send out
Only if
the,
David gets up that early.
when do they send out the tracings that we do?
Are you
Well,
signed
Dave-
up yet?
I am.
So David will be forwarding the drawings to us shortly, probably about a week before the workshop, and then we will forward them on to everybody in the class.
Yeah,
that
you know
the-
what? I'll get those to you. In fact, I'm gonna make a note tomorrow. They're all ready to go.
All right, go take your break, David.
Oh, I'm taking my break. I'm not painting. I'm just making a note.
All right.
And just listening.
So actually, while we are on a break, I know I put in, this is Susan, and I put in the chat. I put in the chat a question about our workshop lineup for next year, because we opened it up September 1st, and signups for all the workshops have been light. And some of them are in person, some of them are online only, and some of them are online and in person. So I was curious if people were feeling comfortable enough to sign up for some of them that are in person. It's going to be at the Hoover Theater. We will have, mask requirements or, whatever protocols we need in place at any given time. But I'm curious what people are thinking or feeling right now. I know with, the Delta variant that's been in the news lately. So if anybody would like to share with me, are you for it, against it? I'm just very curious if this is too soon. So just wanting to know.
I have my booster, but I don't feel safe in person classes yet.
And who just was speaking?
This is Martha.
Oh, okay, Martha. Yeah, thank you. So this is for next year. Our first one would be in January. So it's still months away, but again, I'm curious.
And mine's in May. Hopefully it'll be a lot better by then.
David, what are you teaching in May?
Oh, it is going to be a fun one. In fact, I should try and find a picture. People and their pets.
Oh,
And I'm going to talk about how you can take some incredible photographs with your pets. What I do is, actually all my workshops, I talk about how I work from photographs only. I mean, I've got this online drawing workshop coming up that I'm really excited about on my California Vibe School of Watercolor. But all of my paintings, I trace from the reference photograph. I trace a simple outline, and then I enlarge it to painting size. And then that gets traced again on my watercolor paper before I even paint. That's how this worked out. Because I'm just not into spending time drawing. And not only that, but then I'll keep that tracing. That's my master tracing. So every time I do another a study of the same subject, I just take out the master tracing and I put that on my light table, or you can put it on your window during the day, put your 140-pound cold press paper on top and trace it again. You're not always drawing it because you want to spend time painting. And anyway, that's what a lot of artists do and have been doing since the Renaissance. During the Renaissance, they used camera obscuras. That was a trade secret then. But a lot also painted and drew from scratch. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It just depends on where your creative priorities are. And mine's in the painting process and teaching people how to paint.
And David paints wonderful, really fabulous, animals and things like that. So his people and his pets, a couple of the ones that he sent, for promotion for the workshop next year, really are funny. But
you know what? I'm going to try and get, I think I have one on my tabletop. So what I'm going to do, I guess I could make a quick print, which I'm
that or
doing now.
screen share,
Pardon?
that or screen share.
Or screen share. Maybe we should try that. Let me, okay. So I've got it on my tabletop. So what sort of magic do you have to do?
Nothing.
Then how do I show it?
You're
Hit the green button, screen share.
The
Yeah,
green
David,
button
you'll
screen
just-
share. I've never done this
you'll just hit
before.
screen share and then find the painting that you want to show.
Okay. So where is,
It's like a
where
bright-
is that green button?
It's usually at the bottom. It can be at the bottom or the top. Are you on a laptop?
I'm on a
iPad?
laptop.
Yeah, mine's at the bottom and it's
Oh, I
bright
see.
green.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah,
Just dip my elbow in my painting. Screen share. There it is. Do I click on? Can you see anything? Oh, share.
yeah. So now we see you. Now, oh, there it is. So we
Can you see it?
We see a photo. Yep,
Do you see the woman holding the cat?
yep,
Is it big enough?
yep,
Isn't that incredible?
yeah,
Isn't that a cute photograph of her pet?
yeah.
And there are more like this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do cats and dogs.
You have one painting of a cat and its owner that's a little crazy,
Yeah.
scary, but
I don't know if I
funny.
can. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get that. I have to go back to my. Oh, I'm not going to do it right now. You know what? I'll send you some samples.
Yeah, you did.
can
You
send
did
out.
already. You did already.
I did already. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are good samples to send out. I can't do
Okay.
it right now. I gotta
Yeah,
get
that's
back to
fine.
painting.
That's fine.
Okay. Enough dilly-dallying. I'm gonna finish no, I'm not gonna finish the rocks yet. I want to get to the wave. I'm anxious about that. Get to both of those crashing waves. So what I've got to do is I've got to lay down a foundation of color. And I think what I'll do is let me turn this around. And you can see my mixing area. Because they're not going to be any of those warm colors anymore, except for maybe a little bit of yellow. So I want to take, I want to do wet on wet. I'm going to very carefully wet this area of wave. Oh, I can turn off the fan. My wife turned on the air conditioning. I think we're about 96 today in Sacramento. Then we're going to go down to the 80s. Oh my God. The 80s. Haven't seen the 80s in a long while. Okay. Now I'm going to get some more cobalt blue. A lot of it. And I'm going to want a little bit of also cobalt blue, a little bit of Payne's gray in it. Yeah, there's no paint in these wells. It's just dirty. Okay, here we go. Oh, look at that spread. Wow. And I think I'm also going to need a little bit of yellow. And maybe I'll have a little puddle of orange ready to go. Okay.
David, this is Susan. Did you wet that area first?
Oh yeah, this is all wet on wet.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want it quite so streaky. I hardly have any paint on my brush right now. I want a little bit of, I think, the orange coming through. I love the black mixed into this blue. Gives it such a deep color. Okay, and then I want to go to the other one, the little wavelet. Oh, I forgot. It's got to be wet on wet. These highlights are kind of working. But I'm going to use some chalk marker as well. Okay, so I've really changed the splash on that big wave. I'm not doing, you can see. I just wanted a fan because that's what we're used to seeing. You know, sometimes when you do a subject in a painting, it just doesn't read as well as in a photograph, I've discovered. So I like to do an image that I know is going to be read well on my watercolor. Okay. You know what, I'm going to have to wet this. I want this a little bit over here. So I'll wet that. Then I dip my brush into the paint well, but then I take off a lot of the water because I don't want it blotting out. I don't want it traveling too far. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. This rock. So what was my brown? It was the red. It was the phthalo, and I don't need a lot of phthalo because that can go a long ways. It was just a little bit of yellow. And there's also some water splashing up. So I'm going to kind of stagger the edge like this, or feather it. And then as I come out, it's going to be solid rock. I should have done that here too, but that's okay. There, so we got some water splattering up. I'll show you how to do that with a chalk marker. And it gets pretty smooth down there. Okay, and then we have another, just kind of give this a few ripples like that, wavelets. And that's going to be an all dark rock. Now we have this little wave coming up, a little dark here, some wavelets here. I want to do that. And that's kind of, it's a lavenderish color. So I'm taking opera and I'm mixing it with cobalt. And I'm also going to add a little bit of black in there, Payne's gray. Yeah. Okay. And then at the base of the wave, we still have these little wavelets coming out in front of it. Then I'm going to go in with a phthalo blue. And we've got some wavelets here. So we're just trying to give that texture for the water some texture. It goes right into the, or behind the big wave that's splashing against the rock. Then in the front, should I do this? Yeah, I think I'll continue this wet on dry. They're fairly defined. It's only the wave that's splattering up where I want some softness, especially this one. Because what you're doing is you're looking right through the water, and that's got to be soft. This can be a little bit harder. And we have a little bit of some of that darker purple showing in areas. I can do some bigger ones here. Oh, I haven't finished. There's some rocks on this side too, and the water's shaded here, so it's going to be a deeper cobalt color. And then as it comes out, it gets lighter. A bit deeper here. And some very subtle values. Let's tap in a little opera. So I'm using the side of my brush now, just like I would use the side of a round, except it's my cat's tongue. Okay, let's finish some more rock. Let me turn this around. Pushing this white back, it was a little bit too harsh. I'm adding some more sunset orange. But now I've got to mix some. Now that was a lot of phthalo. I want to get, I get tired of mixing. I want to get a lot of brown that I can work with. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, we have a rock here. Right in the foreground. And then that needs to be warmed up with a little bit with some red. Yeah, that's better. Another little rock out here. One there. I want to get this a little bit darker. Has anybody seen the Bob Ross documentary?
I have. This is Vicky.
Pretty interesting, huh?
It was very interesting. Too bad.
Too bad for Bob Ross. Yeah, he was a cool guy, actually.
Yeah.
He was like the Mr. Rogers of art. Okay, now let's finish off the ocean. Oh, and I think I want a little bit of that wet on wet. But not too much. Now I'm going to have to clean this a little because I want pure cobalt blue. I don't want to get it too dirty. Get some more paper towels here. Anybody have any questions? Nope.
Somebody asked about what brush, let me see. What brush do you recommend for the scrubbing technique you talked about?
Oh, I like to buy Raphael brushes. They're relatively inexpensive and they got all sorts of different sizes for the flats. This is a Raphael. This one's number 20.
And then the brand of the chalk markers you use, those are the Arteza?
Yes. Arteza, and also there's a German brand called Edding, Edding. And these come in big sets. And they're called Arteza. It's a 42. Whoops, I got some paint. It's a 42 color set. Get those from Amazon. They're not that expensive. You're gonna pay about 40 bucks for all those. Hey, look, here's a good thing I can show you. Look at that mark right there. I could either scrub it off or use a white chalk marker. Nobody's any the wiser. It's gone. These chalk and this is another, most of the chalk markers are the same. This is called bistro chalk marker, but they're basically filled up, I think, with watercolor, except they're gouache. So they're a lot more opaque. That's why these things work. I need a little bit more. I think I need a little more dark on the rocks. And I'm going to have a little bit going through here. Now what I'm going to try and get is some, I don't want it too dark. Just some little indication of splattering wave. I'm trying to mimic without copying what's happening here. So just using the tip of the brush, sometimes I press a little harder to get some bigger droplets of water. Pat it a little. I don't want them too dark. And then you can also buy, these are jet pens. Jet pens are made, in fact, I think they're distributed out of San Francisco. And I've got to get one that's working a little better than these. This one is. So if I want some, yeah, they could be a little bit, I'm going to see if I can get it. I think I can use these. Yeah, look. Look at these splatters, and they're really nice opaque. Look at that splattering. So you really don't need any masking fluid. Oh. So I'm about 80% done. I don't know if I'm going to finish all this. We'll see how I do.
Well, that chalk marker really made a difference.
It really does. I mean, and you just kind of, then it becomes a question, well, how many splatters do I want? I'm looking at the photograph, and some of these splatters are really tiny. Others are bigger like that. Look at this. What's that? Oh, look at that. And the other thing about these is you can take it off. That was a nice one. I think I'll leave that. You can reconstitute them with water and literally erase them. Oh, where else? We had some, well, let's put some here. Remember, I forgot. Some of these are going way up. Some are small. Some are large. It's all almost covering the rock on this one. I'm pushing back just a little too white. And if I wanted to come back with more white, I could either scrub it or use my chalk marker. And let's try and put in a little bit of color now. See what that does. I just want to really give you a good idea how these work. And don't forget, when you think of chalk markers, think of them as watercolor gouache applicators. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of sunset orange, yellow color here. Get this going. Yeah, put in a little bit of white in there too. And they'll mix. They'll mix just like watercolors. And then you take a wet brush and you'll pull some of that out. Like that. I don't know what that highlight's doing there. I think that should be, that's bothering me. You know, as your painting comes along and, you know, you step back from it or you put it on a shelf to observe it, you start seeing where you need to add more paint. I'm gonna bring this right up here. I really want that rock silhouetted against this splash. And there's another dark wave that I see. Right here, kind of coming through. I don't want it too dark. If it comes out, I'll lighten it up just a little bit. There. A little more. How about a nice highlight right there? And also I'll add a little bit of white there, a little bit of white there. Then I take my brush. There. I'm eating into some of these highlights because I just think it's too much. Oh, and I want to add just make that splattering a little wilder. So it's in front of the other one. And then I'm going to get some very subtle orange mixed in with the water. I hope this is coming over on your computers. So that adds a little color excitement to this blue. And then how about, especially close to the sun here, how about some yellow? And look how beautifully transparent this is because it's watercolor gouache. So now we got some color coming through that wall of water. And let me show you what I'm going to do with the sun. what would happen if I cut through this a little bit, soften that. Yeah. And then it's a little bit too much. I'm going to add some. And right below it, by the way, I get my hands nice and dirty. I do this to get the ink started. Okay, then we've got some. We got the sun reflected. In the ocean. Can you here? See what I'm doing? And it's so nice and opaque. Get that white again. There. And I need a little, this is coming out a little bit, so I'll just add a little bit of yellow. And soften it. With my small capstone.
Very nice.
There. Okay, and then I think I need a few, I'm almost done. Oh, I know, some more. Some more splatter action. And I love it silhouetted against that sunset sky. And there should be some coming out here. Way out. Going to eat into that a little more. Oh, let's say I want a little more. This is taking my eye. It's fighting with the center of action here. So I want to, let's try some orange. We'll just put some orange in, just scribble it in. Then I'm going to take a flat brush. And let's add a touch of yellow here. And we'll use my flat brush to bring that back into some of the orange. Yeah, I like that. And then I'm going to take some yellow. A little bit of the orange. Do the same thing on this side to balance it out. Yeah, that's better. So now I'm in the process of just pushing back on some of these super strong highlights. Okay. Now, I'm going to, what I would do now is I would stop. Time to think about prepping for dinner. And I come back to this tonight to see how it's going to look. So now I'm at that point where I think it's about 90% done. I'm going to take off some of this tape. I'm hoping I'm getting somewhat of a nice line on the, I think at the bottom, some of that paint crept through. That's okay. You know what? I'll just erase it with my white gouache later on. I think it creeped under a little bit in here.
Looks great.
So, I'm going to do one more thing. It just stands out like a sore thumb. Rock on that side. And then I'm done for my demo. I'll let it rest and come back to it tomorrow. And I can, Susan, if you want me to send it to you, the finished painting, I don't know if you want that or not, but I could. Let's do this. There's way too much rock. It needs to. To kind of frame the wave popping up. Bit of phthalo. Yeah, that's better. Get a little more highlight on top here. Just take off some brush. This is where the honey base comes in handy. But you know, I find it works fine with almost any brand. But so I don't use too much honey base unless somebody gives me, unless a manufacturer wants to give me some free paint. That's not good. One last thing, that's got to go. We leave a little white so there's some splattering. Okay. I think that's it. I am done. So if anybody has any questions, I may have some answers.
Well, I think it looks fantastic, and I'd love to have anybody that's interested, go ahead and sign up so we can start. We'll start this on the 20th through the 22nd. And David will share his great sense of humor, his love and passion for painting and color.
Yeah. Is there any other questions?
Let me show you one more time. We're going to be doing that. This is in Florida, by the way, Dunedin, Florida. So that's the East Coast where the water is nice and warm. And here is, except we're going to be making it larger. This is Asilomar Beach between Carmel and Monterey, where the water is nice and cold. So
Very
those will be our
nice.
2 images. So, hey, hope to see you.
Yep, you can sign up.
When is it, Susan, Vicky, next week or week after?
Week
The
after.
20th. Yeah.
Yeah, the 20th
Week
through
after,
the
yeah, good.
22nd, Monday through Wednesday. And you can sign up all the way until the day before the workshop begins.
But don't forget, you'll have to remember for the late registrants, get
Yep.
them as soon as you can. The outline drawings to trace. There's
Yep.
no drawing involved in this. And also I'll be sending you the reference photos so people can print those on their home printers. So
Right.
they'll have the tracing ready to go right from the first minute of the workshop. They're ready to paint. And we're going to be working on both of them at once. So, and we won't be using a hairdryer. So we'll do like the sunset on this, we'll set it aside, and then we'll do this sunset. And then we'll set that aside. We'll come back to this and we'll do the wave. We'll set that aside, and then we'll come back to this and we'll do the first layer of the ocean. So we're going to go back and forth, step by step, getting in the large colors, the large color value foundation in first, and then we go in for the details, the little, you know, the rocks, the dark areas in the wavelets,
Yep.
and the people and pier.
And note, the workshop will be recorded, and those recordings will be available for 60 days after the workshop. So you can, as David said, paint these images multiple times so you get familiar.
We got a lot of great feedback on the demo, David. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for attending today.
Yep, everybody's saying great demo, wonderful. So hopefully we'll get some signups and go from there. David, as Vicky said, thank you as always.
You're welcome. My
And-
pleasure.
We'll see you in just over a week.
Okay, great.
All right.
All
Thanks,
right,
everybody.
Adios, everybody.
Thank
It was a great painting for you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.